Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm making a video today on the Delphi case, and for those of you unfamiliar with the case, there are plenty of YouTube channels, other things out there discussing the 2017 murders of teenagers Abigail Williams and Liberty German. And I'm going to do something usual today, discussing these homicides. They happened again on February 13th, 2017, near Delphi, Indiana, in rural northwest Indiana. And I've been out there several times investigating the crime scene area, not the crime scene area itself, but near the Monon High Bridge, where this occurred, the lay of the land, looking at what possible escape routes for this individual who they dub Bridge Guy could possibly be. And I'm going to do something, like I said today, that I don't normally do. I'm going to put my theory out there about what happened. And one of the things that really helped solidify my theory was watching some videos. I mean, I'm an investigative journalist by nature since 1996. I've done a little bit of everything in my career. I work in Illinois. I kind of really try to stick with and deal with facts. So I'm kind of going off the cuff here a little bit. But in watching former detective Ken Main's videos, and for those of you who don't know who he has a page called Unsolved No More with over 60,000 subscribers, and he's a former cold case detective. And I've already had opinions, having followed this case for years now and thinking about this case on almost a daily basis. I've had a lot of my own opinions, but some of those were really kind of solidified and molded even more so when I watched Ken Main's videos. And I'll tell you why. One of the things that he talks about is when somebody's committing certain types of a crime, what their behavior is usually like. Former Detective Maines seems like he's really logical in the way he thinks about things, which is one of the things I like about him, because he thinks of things in a cause and effect nature, which is what I like to do as well in my own work. Now, here we have a picture of the area where the crime occurred. You have the Monon High Bridge over here. It doesn't show the bridge here, obviously, but the girls were found on the other side of the creek. Now, as you can see here, you have the parking area that ends up being up here by the start of Freedom Bridge. And it's a pretty significant walk from that parking area all the way down to the Monon High Bridge. I'd probably say close to half a mile. I mean, this isn't just like a little tiny hike. So if Bridge Guy pre-planned this attack, which I think that he did, the thing I'm leaning toward, and the thing that Detective Maines leads toward also, is the fact that this was an abduction or a sexual assault gone wrong. Now, why do we say that we know that or think that with near certainty? Well, here's the thing. If you're going to commit a crime in broad daylight, you want to make sure nobody sees you, right? You want to make sure it's the path of least resistance. You don't want to have to walk a mile and a half, 2 miles, and risk tons of people seeing you, especially in broad daylight. Now, if he parked at the old CPS or welfare building like people talk about, that's a pretty long hike there and back. So I think this person comes out here, and I'm not going to accuse anybody, but I think this was a social media crime where these girls were catfished out here by one and possibly two people. And why do I say possibly two? Well, in an interview a few years back, Detective Tobe Lesenby, or Sheriff Tobe Lesenby of Carroll County, stated, and I quote, "We go back and forth on that sometimes," when referring to whether or not he thinks there were one or two people involved. So clearly, if he's saying they go back and forth on that, him and the detectives themselves think that there's a real plausible chance that there could have been multiple people involved. Now, if you look at my page, you'll kind of get a feel for who I think a couple of those people might have been, potentially. Are you going to come all the way out here, kill these two girls after walking like a half a mile, and then risk coming all the way back, whether it's through the cemetery down 300 North or through the trails back here or the backwoods and risk people seeing you. If you're planning just a simple, like, I think this was either a sexual assault or an abduction gone wrong. Now, you're going to try to take the path of least resistance when you're committing a crime like this. You don't want people to see you. So if that's the case, are you going to intentionally march girls across a creek that is going to get your clothes all wet, that's going to create more noise, that's going to be rough, steep terrain when you get to the other side? Are you going to take that path on purpose? Absolutely not. You're going to take the way that gets you the hell out of there the quickest. Whether there was a car parked down here on this little road that leads to a property right after you get off the bridge, under the bridge, which there's this North 625 West, that would be the quickest escape route. Or you park a motorcycle at the cemetery. But I mean, I don't think if you're planning to abduct two kids, you include purposefully wanting to cross a creek. You just don't do that. And you have to kind of try, as hard as it is, to put yourself in the mind of a criminal and use cause and effect. There would be no reason for you in broad daylight to want to intentionally march two children that might scream, might yell across the creek. I've heard stories that they found one of Liberty's shoes down near this roadway or before the creek, or one of the kids. And I've also read credible reports that, you know, one of the bodies was at least partially nude and that they found women's undergarments. So again, I think this was either a sexual assault attempted or gone wrong or kidnapped. Now, I'm not going to get into all the, you know, potential staging of the crime scene, but I think this was somebody who planned for like a quick abduction, a quick sexual assault. And I think that this person panicked when they realized that these girls, or one of these girls, started running away and said, oh crap, they're going to go tell somebody. There's going to be evidence on my phone or somewhere else linking me back to having talked to these girls. And I just think that it was some sort of a planned abduction or sexual assault gone wrong. And again, a big part of the reason, and the big part of the reason when you watch Detective Main's page, he says the same thing. You don't plan on taking these girls across that terrain in broad daylight, which is probably why the crime scene was supposedly or allegedly staged or had signatures, you know, somebody trying to throw the police off or to let them know, you know, hey, we're trying to cover our tracks, to make it look like something else perhaps. Again, I don't know what's at the crime scene other than what's been talked about through leaked messages, rumors, things like that. But again, if you're planning some sort of a horrific crime, you always make sure that you're going to have the quickest and easiest escape route possible, which is why I don't necessarily think that this was initially intended to be a double homicide. I think it was intended to be a sexual assault and or abduction, and it didn't go the way that the person